Another candidate tonight running for a big seat.
The Dan York State of Mind program is brought to you in part by Lookout Rhode Island and Takeo Comfort Solutions.
You know, we do our part here to get as many voices on during the political season as we possibly can, and two-time candidate now, Sal Caiozzo, is here. He is running for Congress against Jim Langevin, who, by the way, is scheduled on the program in short order, I think next week or the week after, so stay tuned for that. Glad to have you aboard on this hot and humid summer October day. It kind of confused everybody, didn't it? It's just, you know, why am I sweating? Because it's 82 and humid, that's why. It's a nice break. There used to be a name for that, but now you're politically correct. You can't say it. You know, Native American summer? Are you? I don't know. Anyway, I'm feeling rambunctious today, and I'm depressed. So this would be a tough show.
Why are you depressed?
Kevin hasn't. Kevin, my director. Do you have your Red Sox shirt on today? Yeah. Jerk. Let me just say this: Giancarlo Stanton is a waste of money. That's number one. Number two, we're an eighth of an inch away from winning that game, 5-4, right? Right?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, this much on the bat, and Sanchez knocks that into left field. Do you agree?
I do.
Yeah, he agrees. The worst mistake was you put a pinch runner in. He's on second base. It's a deep fly ball on that play to left field, Kev, and we don't run to third base. We tag from home and score the third run. This kid doesn't run to third base. If he runs to third base, this pitcher, what's his name with the thing? Who was the reliever that was throwing up all over himself? Kimbrel. This little thing he's got this like, you know, on the mound thing, he's got that thing going on. He throws up with a runner on third base. But it didn't happen, and there you go. Exactly. Boston's great escape. Aptly put. The best of luck to Red Sox Nation. I've been dwelling in it for 20 years now, and I've learned to take my comeuppance. Still start to twitch when I think about 04. All right, let's get on to issues that supposedly matter. Channel 12 had what I would consider to be a major league debate last night. These were two blue chip candidates, one elected many times over, incumbent Sheldon Whitehouse, and Bob Flanders, the former Supreme Court judge, the Republican, who I think did a very nice job contrasting the kind of candidates you have to choose from. I think he probably narrowed the deficits. The deficit's pretty big, though. Here's Eyewitness News recount of the big event.
Bob Flanders was highly critical of how Senator Sheldon Whitehouse questioned Brett Kavanaugh during those hearings, while Whitehouse took Flanders to task for his negative campaign ads.
Oh my goodness, how embarrassing for Rhode Island.
Just minutes into the debate, Republican U.S. Senate candidate Bob Flanders took aim at Democratic incumbent Sheldon Whitehouse for how he grilled President Trump's Supreme Court nominee.
And his shameful performance in these Kavanaugh hearings, he was a gas bag. It was all about juvenilia in a high school yearbook.
I think it's a bit rich to be lectured on what is appropriate by the candidate who brought both gas bag and doofus into the Republican political lexicon.
Flanders was down by 19 points in last month's Eyewitness News Roger Williams University poll. Political analyst Joe Fleming says both candidates were respectful behind the podiums, but made sure to play up their differences.
I think Bob Flanders made some inroads, but I think Sheldon Whitehouse held his own, and that's the key if you're an incumbent leading in the polls.
I've got these two ratings of being in the top 10 most effective senators. I have laws like the Cara bill that have changed the way we do opioids.
I'll tell you what
so
he's
I
in the
think
top
I've got
10
a
for.
credible...
He's in the top 10 for being the most partisan senator. He's ranked 9th on the Lugar index for being the 9th most partisan senator down there.
You know, what I was happy to see is that Bob Flanders, who has taken some, you know, political shots at Sheldon Whitehouse with the ads, again, gas bag and doofus, as Sheldon referred to it, that he didn't back down in a debate from the assertions that he has made. I didn't expect him to. You know, Bob is a pretty sturdy guy, but Sheldon Whitehouse is just somebody that you're not going to push over. Now, the great thing about last night's debate, if you haven't seen it, go to WPRI.com and watch it. I thought Tim and Ted did a fabulous job. It was very issue-based. Although they got their wax in. The first 15 minutes or so spent time on the Kavanaugh hearings and White House's role in that. I thought the balance of the debate was outstanding. I think you see a clear difference between the two candidates. So if you're paying attention, watching that debate, I think you'll get a feeling that matches up to where your general ideology is, not just on the Kavanaugh hearings, but on things like the budget, things like health care, and just overall disposition of the way they approach their job. So please, if you haven't seen it, go to the website and see it, because you'll be a more informed voter. I agree with Joe Fleming. I think Flanders comported himself well and probably narrowed whatever gap. If a debate has impact on a poll, he probably did. But Sheldon Whitehouse just doesn't fall down. He just doesn't. He's been around too long. All right. And again, I hate to measure these things by the Rock'em Sock'em Robots, measurement. My point is that there was enough gravitas between the two of them to be able to see that, but a significant difference between the two. All right. Having said that, now we go to kindergarten. Here's the headline that is the latest on this one. Which one is it? Anita, I can't even read this one. These glasses don't even work. It's just the one that I have here. I mean, I know what the story is, but this is, what does that say? Yell at me. What does that say? Trillo, what? I unintentionally struck young Nicholas Mattiello. I heard this story today. What in God's name is this? So the story goes that when he was 33 years of age, which is about 4 centuries ago for Joe Trillo, he's doing some yard work, and the kids next door are trying to get into the neighbor's house, and he knows that the young lady who's in there who's screaming, is without her parents who are out, and he runs over and he breaks him up, and inadvertently he whacks Nick Mattiello in the headers. He was on the radio. Here's an edited version of some of the story.
While I was working outside, I hear this screaming coming from the house, screaming, "Get out of here! Get out of here! Get out of here!" And really very intense.
Okay.
So I rush over there, not knowing what's going on, and I see the kids trying to basically pound on the door to get in the house. And Nick Mattiello was one of the kids. Well, I'm not going to tell you that I'm the most laid-back, easy to get along guy. I'm not. I'm an intense guy. I get involved. I hear stuff like this. I hear a young girl screaming next door, and I run over there because I hear a young girl who I know the young lady was.
Okay. It's like one of those days when it's slow on the radio, and I say, "Hey, tell me your hero story." And it turns out Trillo was charged, for whacking Mattiello, but the parents didn't follow up on the charges, and they've been fast friends since. And I don't know. This is a Fung leak. They're trying to do everything they can to put Trillo away. Now, I don't know what Trillo's worth. The public radio poll that came out yesterday, along with the Providence Journal and a competitive television station, had Trillo at 5%, Fung at 34%, and Gina Raimondo at 48%. So I don't know if that's a trend off the former poll done by Channel 12 here in Roger Williams University that had the much more narrow. I'm not sure. I don't know even what to make of this stuff, other than you got Fung and Trillo kicking living daylights out of each other. And I guess there's another story, too, where Trillo got into a little skirmish with Larry Earhart, former representative, and they've been holding that one back to try to paint Trillo as a madman. He's an excitable boy, but I don't think any of the stuff we're hearing is disqualifying him for running for governor, or being governor. What's disqualifying him is that he's lost his message, and Alan Fung is just spending time defeating him. There's another candidate in the race. She's got 48%, and she's going to walk across the finish line laughing. And finally, speaking of the Republicans who don't know how to get out of their own way, here's a young lady who responded to the debate last week, Channel 12's gubernatorial debate that was down at Roger Williams. She is a student at Roger Williams. She is the head of the Roger Williams Republican Club, I guess. She's 20 years old, and she had a reaction to the debates.
You said some of your friends are in support of the Democratic incumbent. You stated tonight that you would support Joe Trillo.
Yes.
And why is that?
Well, my ideology and values kind of align more so with Joe Trillo. I'm not really aligned with a lot of the Democratic values and the liberal ideologies.
So you would lean towards him. And why would you, if you lean Republican, why did you not choose Alan Fung as the winner tonight or the candidate that you would want to support?
So one of the biggest things for me is I can't really tell what he stands for, and I don't really want to vote for a candidate who doesn't take a stand on something. That kind of tells me or shows me poor leadership.
All right, now she was on the payroll for Rep. Morgan, who lost Alan Fung in the primary, so know that. Morgan has since endorsed Trillo. She supports Trillo. But rather than celebrating the diversity in the state Republican Party, what did the Rhode Island Young Republican chairman do? And she sits, by the way, on the board of the Young Republicans. They popped her online on Facebook, voted her off the island. You know, they want to grow the Republican Party in this state, but they take a young, upstart, really smart, young 20-year-old lady from Roger Williams University and tell her she doesn't belong anymore. And you want to know why they can't get out of the phone booth. We have a fellow Republican. He may have a thought on it, but he's got bigger fish to fry. He's running for Congress when we come back. So we do have a congressional race here in this election cycle, and there is a Republican running against incumbent Jim Langevin. Sal Caiozzo is here, and it's your second time around. Welcome. Good to see you again.
Same here.
You are now without Republican challengers, though. So
I am.
So you are one-on-one. You have the party endorsement, correct? Mm-hmm. And you are a plumber by trade, but a disabled veteran who is on a mission. It's the second time around.
Well, yeah, big mission, actually.
Well, welcome.
Huge one.
Good to see you.
Thank you.
What is the mission?
Well, the mission, I'm the founder of PoisonedVeterans.org. It has to do with people that were in the military that were poisoned or were exposed to certain type of munitions. There's a lot of us out there who also inadvertently have children as well that aren't doing well. Myself included. We need to get the word out to for these people, some type of registry, some type of what have you to, get them on board for medical care as well as research. Unfortunately, this thing's been through Congress many times. They've had a bill go through Congress many times, and it's never getting anywhere. So I began getting involved actually back in 2012. Going to Washington quite a bit, lobbying for this on my own dime, trying to see what we can do. Unfortunately, it gets nowhere.
What is that's the general description of the problem. How much do you tell of your own story?
My own story?
Yeah.
Well, you can go to PoisonedVeterans.org and you can read the whole thing.
Give me the headline.
The headline? I, back in '82, was at a base, which is in Fort McClellan, Alabama, for military police training. And we all got exposed to PCBs and God knows what else, because that same base was also the chemical base. It was a chemical training school. The Army is going to use chemicals, and they're going to train their people with chemicals, and it was all over that base. In fact, that base then was somewhat superfunded, a good portion of it, back in the later 80s into the 90s, and then finally closed in '99.
Okay, so your exposure, you knew right away?
I did not. I found out about my exposure, even though I was getting sick. I was doing pretty good in business and what have you, but I was getting sick, and nobody could figure out why. And then one day I saw something in Law Enforcement Today that talked about poisoning at Fort McClellan in Alabama. When I then read on even more, I saw that Monsanto, which was close by to that base, and also was the makers of the famous Agent Orange and all sorts of other things as well, and it probably was made there in Anniston, Alabama, was sued for $700 million by the town the veterans weren't involved. They weren't even notified. So it's been quite a plight. And then when you have children, when you have one at 6 years old that had a type of cancer that was very rare, fortunately he's still around, but still needs facial reconstruction because the cancer was in his jaw. But at 6 years old, you start to wonder, okay, one child. Then you have another one who actually just got out of the hospital yesterday because he has a very rare condition with a ligament that goes over his celiac nerve and artery and will not afford him to eat properly. He has to eat with TPN. Ended up in the hospital again as well and hopefully getting ready for surgery. The positive side of that is, however, that I have a doctor from the VA. He's a research doctor who actually found the problem, and he knows it can be fixed. So thankfully for that. But he's 21 now. He was 10 years old when he started. So yeah, I've got a big bone to pick. I do. I really do.
Well, sorry for your trouble. That's brutal. And all right, when we come back, we'll talk about how you're turning this life experience into a candidacy. Stay with us. Congressman Langevin is scheduled in here on the 17th of this month to visit with us in this election season. Sal Caiozzo is the Republican who is running against him. By the way, I failed to mention the young lady's name in the first segment. That's Kalasia Richer. She most likely will be here next week if she accepts our invitation to tell her story, which is just, you know, another bonehead dynamic in the Republican Party. I have a general sense, Sal, that that's not your bag. That you're not really too concerned about what's going on with the state party.
No, not at all.
You're on a mission of your own, correct?
You know, well, I'm on a mission of my own. I'm also on a mission for the state of Rhode Island from future constituents and what have you. But I'm dealing basically with the National Republican Conference, as well as which I was actually endorsed by the Republican Liberty Caucus, the Ron Paul and Rand Paul people.
All right, so you've got a human drama that is very real, and I don't know. Would you use the word tragic? It's certainly a hardship.
Affected my life.
It's a terrible hardship,
like you wouldn't believe.
Right. If you just tuned in, Sal's a veteran, disabled, who's dealing with post-PCB problem, including his kids. And you're pretty certain that it's all connected, that everything is connected.
I am, and like I said, fortunately I have this doctor who is a Veterans Affairs research doctor who got on board and is actually taking care of my youngest. He's also come up with the same thing. I mean, it's a very, very rare condition.
Okay, so you are channeling that life experience and what else into this race?
The people that need it. And there's a lot of people out there that need it. They need help. Rhode Island isn't, you know, there's a lot of issues here with constituents, but not just in Rhode Island, but in the whole country itself. We have all sorts of stuff going on, not just with veterans, but with the elderly, with the disabled, and it goes on and on from there.
What's the message? Why do you expect people to take your candidacy on as serious a level as to consider not voting for Jim Langevin?
I get things done. I really do. I've stood up for the fishermen, for instance. I've been there when the Commerce had a thing going on with the Senate, and I spoke. I've spoke to many, and then just last year when there was that issue with the bus passes just here in the state. Now I know it's something that has to do with the state, but I still spearheaded a rally for this. I made sure that these people got things back. In fact, that day myself, John Lombardi, Maura Walsh, and Ken Mendonca, for instance, we all had a meeting with was the 15th of May, actually. I remember it quite well, of 2017. We all had a meeting with the RIPTA board to get this stuff taken care of. which then inadvertently it was. It made it through legislation, and they got another 2 years, which now
That's a
they still
diverse
have another
group, by
year.
the way, in the state legislature.
Yes, it is, but you
that's
know,
an
you have to
interesting
work
group.
bipartisanly.
Yeah.
You can't be, and that's not me. I'm not, you know, yeah, we have a platform, okay, but I'm not going to agree with everything in that platform now, am I? I'm going to agree with what's right for the constituents.
Are you raising money?
It's been tough.
Yeah.
I have my next quarterly that's coming up by the 15th, which I have to put in, which is next Monday, and it will, but it's been very tough.
Yeah.
Everybody's been more so in the ways of the governor's race, and more so the Republicans towards Fung. So that's a little difficult when they say, oh, we already gave to this one and gave to that one, and it goes from there.
Well, look, there's no doubt that you're an upset pick at best. You know that. I mean, you're a reasonable and very smart guy. So we know what's true about this thing. Do you think that you'll be able to make a mark on your PCB / veterans who've been what's the term again that we're using?
Poisoned.
Who've been pretty simple.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems to me that that's something that you ought to put the muscle on Langevin to do something about.
Well, we have, and we've done a few things. I know he co-sponsored one bill at least, but anyway, there's a lot more that needs to be done. But it's not just about the poisoning. It's not just about the veterans. It's about constituents here in Rhode Island.
All right, so you got 60 seconds. Give me a bullet point, bang, 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 why people ought to consider you as a choice for Congress.
Because I think I'm the person that will get Rhode Island noticed in Washington, D.C. Unfortunately, Rhode Island hasn't been noticed. We're a small state. Too few votes in this state. That's the way they look at it. I want to go there and responsibly, and get the word out of our constituents. Rhode Island has to be put back on top. Remember who we are and who we were, thanking to Roger Williams. We're a rebel state. We need to remain that way.
And your candidacy and your electability will provide a rebel reputation.
Well, I wouldn't say rebel, but maybe a little bit. Just maybe a little bit. Look, you can't shut me up, and that's the whole thing. And that's what would help the state itself.
All right. Well, there you go. Best luck with the boys, with the kids. And,
Thank you.
And with you and your health and the mission to get some attention for that good cause. And you know what? I've stopped predicting elections, so who knows? Who knows?
Wow. Just remember one thing.
What's that?
I'm Sal. I'm not the Republican Party.
There you go. He's Sal. You got that?
There we go.
Last word, and we come back. Stay with us. So we got an interesting conversation tomorrow. Dee Dee Whitman is a candidate for mayor in Providence. She reportedly has a ton of dough, at least for the final stretch that she is sitting on, but available in her campaign. She was endorsed by the Providence Police Union, which is a pretty good get. And so a lot of folks in the city are kind of wondering, is she pulling the political trigger or not? We'll ask her. She'll be here tomorrow. And we'll talk to you on the radio at 3 until 6 on WPRO. Have a great evening. Good night.